By default, Fusion 360 will create your products out of mild steel, the sort of gray, mid-tone gray color. It's okay. It allows us to see the dimensions of our 3D extrusions and all that, but we can do a lot better than that. We can make this much more interesting. Under the Modify menu, you can bring up the appearances. And appearances will allow us to change what things look like. It won't change the properties of these products. That we would have to do with the materials tool. But under appearances, we can change how things look and feel. So I could get a little bit crazy here, and I could make my clock face out of water. Now I don't actually want to do that, but you could do it if you want to. I'm going to scroll down here to the paint appearances, and I'm going to scroll down to show what it would look like if I made my clock and I colored it yellow. That's kind of cool. I like that. So that would sort of mimic what it would be like to make my clock out of yellow acrylic. So I'll close my appearances panel, and now I'm gonna sort of muck around with the rest of these things to change the appearance of my the rings here. So I had actually made my retaining rings, sorry, I beg your pardon, the hour markers, as you might recall. And that was done by doing an extrusion. So I can go find that extrusion just by mousing over the timeline here and mousing over the feature. If I click on that, it shows, okay, that was the one that I used to make that extrusion. That's kind of cool. If I wanted to make that into a raised up extrusion and I want to have them, sort of appear above, I could use that one. So those are my hour markers. I could turn that on, and there we go. And I could, this other one where I cut through to the bottom side of my clock, if I don't want to keep that, I can turn that off. I wouldn't necessarily delete it. That's not usually a good idea, but I can suppress it. I can say, just suppress that feature. Don't turn it on, and now it's as if it's not being used, and it kind of goes transparent on the timeline by suppressing that. So now I've got my hour markers, and there they are, and they are of course over here on my data tree, and I can change their appearance too. So I could say modify appearance, and then I could say, okay, well, I want the hour markers to be red. So I dragged and dropped my appearance on top of the component over here in the data tree, and it's giving me that. So now I've got red hour markers and a yellow clock face. And this just sort of gives me a preview of what it would look like if I made those components, those parts, out of the material, out of red acrylic and yellow acrylic. And that's the end of this video.